The Great Hall of the Galactic Union Space Station was larger than any stadium on Earth. Its dome stretched high above the delegates, and light from the dying red star outside filtered through transparent crystal walls. Representatives from 100 different species filled the circular chamber, their voices buzzing, echoing, and humming in strange tones. Some of them towered over 10 feet tall, with thick shells or metallic frames. Others had wings, shimmering scales, or glowing bodies of energy. And in the middle of all of them stood the humans. It was Earth's first official introduction to the Union, and Commander Elena Ruiz led the delegation. Alongside her were scientists, soldiers, and cultural envoys, all dressed in formal uniforms. They stood straight and proud, but they could feel the weight of alien eyes studying them. The first voice of mockery came from the insectoid general, a massive creature with armored plates covering its body like black steel. Its mandibles clicked as it laughed, the sound echoing across the chamber. "Fragile creatures," it said in a sharp, echoing voice. "Soft skin, thin bones, no claws, no natural armor. Even our young hatchlings are stronger than you." Laughter spread among other alien groups. A crystalline being whose body reflected light like a diamond added, "Their lifespan is nothing. They wither in less than a century. They are temporary, like sparks in the dark." Another, shaped like a coiled serpent with golden eyes, hissed, "They cannot even breathe on most worlds. They would suffocate in hours without their machines." The laughter grew louder. The humans stayed silent. Commander Ruiz pressed her hands behind her back, hiding the way her knuckles tightened. She knew that nothing she could say would change their minds. They saw humans as weak because humans looked weak. Words would not erase that image. Only proof would. That proof came in the form of the Union trials. Every new species had to pass them before gaining full membership. The trials were not just ceremony. They were survival tests designed to measure endurance, adaptability, and combat skill. The insectoid general leaned closer, mandibles scraping together. "Let us see how long they last in the arena." When the announcement came, the audience grew restless with excitement. Alien representatives leaned forward, eager to see what humans could do, or rather how fast they would fail. The humans prepared quietly. A squad of Marines was selected, their armor light compared to the heavy exosuits worn by alien soldiers. They carried weapons, but even those looked smaller, less intimidating than the energy cannons used by others. Before stepping into the arena, Commander Ruiz looked at her squad. Their faces were calm, but she saw determination in their eyes. "They think we're weak," she said. "They don't know us. Go and show them." The arena shimmered to life, created by powerful holographic projectors and nanotech. In an instant, it became a battlefield. Jagged alien steel rose from the ground like broken swords. Flames burned in the distance, and enemy machines, simulated but deadly, stalked the field. The horn sounded. The trial began. The human squad moved forward, covering one another as they advanced. For a moment, the audience was silent, watching carefully. Then it happened. A towering machine struck. One of its bladed arms slashed across the chest of a human soldier, cutting through his armor. The man fell hard to the ground, blood spilling, his body motionless. The hall erupted in laughter. The crystalline being's voice rang above the rest. One strike, and already they fall." The insectoid general clacked its mandibles in amusement. "Fragile. Too fragile for war, too fragile for survival." Even some Union scribes began noting predictions of failure. The trial seemed as good as over. But then something unexpected happened. The fallen soldier gasped. His chest heaved, his hand pressed against the wound. Slowly, painfully, he pushed himself up. His comrades reached to help him, but he waved them away, forcing himself onto his knees, then his feet. The audience leaned forward. The deep cut across his chest was still bleeding, but the flow slowed, then stopped. Before their eyes, tissue began to knit together. Muscle fibers pulled closed, veins sealed, and the skin, though scarred, began to close over. Within minutes, the soldier stood again. Pale, trembling, but alive. A hush fell over the chamber. The alien representatives who had been laughing now stared in silence. Their eyes, some glowing, some faceted, some mechanical, fixed on the impossible sight. The insectoid general's mandibles clicked, but no laughter came. The crystalline being tilted its head, its voice a whisper this time. "This should not be." Commander Ruiz said nothing. She only watched her soldier take his weapon again. his body still scarred but his spirit unbroken. He rejoined the squad and they pressed forward into the battle. The machines attacked again and the humans fought fiercely. They were knocked down, struck, bruised, and battered, but every time they fell, they rose again. The audience no longer laughed. Instead, whispers spread among them. How did he survive such a wound? Their flesh repairs itself too quickly. No species heals like this. As the humans continued to fight, the mood of the chamber changed. What was meant to be a spectacle of mockery became a performance of resilience. When the horn finally sounded, ending the first phase of the trial, the humans stood in formation. Their armor was torn, their faces bruised, but all of them were alive. They saluted Commander Ruiz and waited for the next challenge. She allowed herself the smallest smile. The aliens had seen only the beginning. And for the first time that day, the Galactic Union was quiet. The first phase of the trials ended, but the hall of the Galactic Union remained strangely quiet. The laughter had stopped. The whispers of disbelief grew louder instead. The insectoid general leaned forward, his dark eyes glinting. "Explain this," he demanded. "Flesh does not heal so fast. Wounds like that end life." Commander Elena Ruiz stood calmly in the center of the hall. Her voice was steady, though she could feel every alien gaze pressing against her. "What you saw is not a trick," she said. "It is who we are. Humans may not have shells, scales, or crystal bodies, but our strength is hidden in another way. We regenerate. We recover. We endure." The crystalline being gave a sound like glass striking stone. "Impossible. No creature recovers from such damage without machines." Ruiz did not argue further. She knew they would not believe words alone. The trials would show them. The second trial began. This time, the arena transformed into a frozen wasteland. Ice storms howled, and jagged peaks of frozen rock stretched into the distance. Winds whipped across the field with deadly force. The air itself was poison to most creatures. Many alien spectators nodded knowingly. "Now," one said, "the fragile ones will freeze." The human squad moved forward. Their suits gave them some protection, but frost quickly formed across their visors. Their fingers stiffened, their lips turned blue, and one soldier stumbled, falling into the snow. The audience hissed. Weak. They will not rise this time. But once again the humans surprised them. Two comrades dragged the fallen soldier back up. They wrapped him in emergency heat packs and forced him to keep moving. The squad pressed forward together, step after painful step. Hours passed in the simulation. The storm grew worse. Frostbitten skin cracked and bled, but the humans did not stop. Even when one collapsed, shivering violently, medics revived him. His face was pale, his body trembling, but slowly warmth returned. His skin began to mend. Other species had faced this trial before. Many failed. Their bodies could not adapt to the cold, and their lifeless forms were carried away. But the humans, though shaking, though hurting, survived. The insectoid general shifted uncomfortably in his seat. "They should have perished," another alien ambassador muttered. "They do not die. They refuse to die." When the horn ended the frozen trial, the squad stood again in formation. Their uniforms were torn, their lips still blue, but they were alive. The next challenge came quickly. Radiation storms. The arena glowed sickly green and waves of invisible energy swept across the battlefield. Most creatures, even armored ones, suffered permanent damage after exposure. A reptilian warrior who had mocked the humans earlier had once failed this very trial. His species' pride shattered when they collapsed from the radiation. The humans entered without hesitation. The storm rolled over them, making their skin blister and their stomachs twist. Some vomited, some fainted. Their hair began to fall in clumps. The alien audience leaned forward eagerly, certain this was the end. But days passed. The human squad continued. Though sick, though weak, their bodies began to fight back. Cells regenerated. Blood was cleansed. Medics treated them. But the real miracle was inside their own bodies. They adapted. By the end of the radiation trial, the squad was scarred and pale, but every soldier lived. Their resilience shocked the Union. One crystalline observer whispered, "Their bodies heal themselves, even against death itself." But more surprising than their flesh was their spirit. During the trials, a soldier named Carter lost consciousness for hours. When he finally woke, he was weak and broken, but he whispered, "I'm not done yet." And he forced himself back onto his feet. Another, burned badly during the storm, laughed through cracked lips. "It hurts, but we'll finish this." The audience saw something strange in these humans. They were not only repairing their wounds, they were carrying each other, encouraging each other, refusing to stop. Commander Ruiz turned to the alien leaders and spoke again. "Do you see now? You judge us by the outside. You think strength is hard skin or sharp claws. But real strength is rising after you fall. Real strength is refusing to surrender." Some ambassadors shifted uncomfortably. The insectoid general shook his head, unwilling to admit anything yet. Perhaps they last longer than expected. But this does not make them strong, so the trials continued. The next environment was crushing gravity, many times stronger than Earth's. The humans fell to their knees the moment they entered, their bones and muscles straining. Every step was agony. "Now," the serpent ambassador hissed, "their thin frames will snap." And yet slowly, painfully, the humans stood again. Muscles trembled, sweat poured. But they moved forward one step at a time. When one collapsed, the others lifted him, even if it meant carrying him on their shoulders. Other species had failed here too. Their skeletons cracked. Their organs collapsed. The machines carried their bodies away. But the humans? They endured. It was no longer just biology. It was willpower. The union, once so loud with laughter, now sat in uneasy silence. The final day of the second phase arrived. The humans were exhausted. Their armor was battered, their bodies bruised and scarred, but they stood ready. The alien crowd expected them to falter, but instead, they heard something unexpected. Human voices singing softly as they prepared. A battle hymn, steady and defiant. Even scarred, even broken, they had spirit left. When the simulation ended, and the squad saluted their commander once more, Commander Ruiz finally spoke with quiet pride. "This is what you never understood about us. We heal, yes, our bodies repair, but it is not only flesh, it is spirit. No matter how many times we are wounded, we rise again. That is what makes us dangerous. That is what makes us human." For the first time, there was no laughter in the great hall, no mockery, only silence and the uneasy feeling of respect. The last stage of the Union trials was always the hardest. Many species had tried. Some succeeded, but many failed. It was designed to push every race to the very edge of survival. The hall was filled with alien representatives waiting to see humanity's final test. At first they had laughed at the humans. Then during the earlier trials they had fallen silent. Now, they leaned forward in uneasy anticipation. The insectoid general who once mocked the humans clicked his mandibles together nervously. The crystalline ambassador folded its shimmering arms, its light dimmer than before. Even the serpent delegate, who had hissed with contempt, now coiled in silence. Golden eyes fixed on the humans. Commander Elena Ruiz stood at the front of her squad. Her soldiers looked tired, scarred from radiation, bruised from gravity, burned by storms. But none of them had broken. All of them stood tall, ready to face the final challenge. The arena shimmered again. This time it became a wasteland of fire and chaos. Skies burned red, ash rained down, and massive enemy drones appeared across the battlefield. Behind them, stomping through smoke, came the ultimate challenge, a war beast. It was enormous, larger than any earth animal, with armored hide and claws like blades. Its roar shook the ground. The Union had programmed it to represent the deadliest predator known to the galaxy. Most species never faced it for long. The horn sounded. The final trial began. The human squad moved as one, spreading out, firing their weapons. Drones swarmed, beams of light slicing through the ash-filled air. Explosions tore across the ground. Humans fell, but each time someone pulled them back up. One soldier, Private Harris, was hit hard. His leg burned, the flesh scorched deep. He screamed, collapsing to the ground. The crowd gasped. Many aliens thought this was the end for him. But Harris gritted his teeth, grabbed his weapon, and fired from the ground. His comrades dragged him into cover. His leg trembled, the skin blackened, but medics rushed to him, applying quick treatment. Slowly, painfully, new flesh began forming where the burn had eaten away. He was broken, but not defeated, the audience whispered. They should retreat. They cannot win against the beast. They should give up. But giving up was not in human nature. The war beast roared and charged. Its massive claws swept through 3 soldiers, knocking them aside. Bones cracked, blood spilled, and silence fell in the hall. Even Commander Ruiz felt her heart twist. For a moment it seemed her soldiers were gone. Then, movement. Slowly, agonizingly, the crushed soldiers pushed the beast's weight off their broken bodies. One coughed blood but forced himself to stand. Another staggered, his arm hanging uselessly at his side, but he raised his weapon with the other hand. Their bones would mend. Their spirits refused to break. Gasps filled the chamber. No laughter, only shock. The crystalline ambassador whispered, "Impossible. They should not be alive." The insectoid general's mandibles opened and closed in silence. The humans regrouped. Even wounded, even half-broken, they pressed forward together. Grenades flew, weapons fired, and shouts of defiance echoed through the ash. The warbeast swung again, crushing the ground. But the humans rolled aside, returning fire with precision. Then came the moment that changed everything. One soldier, Sergeant Carter, lost his arm when the beast's claw struck. The limb was torn away, blood spraying. The audience screamed in horror. The serpent delegate turned away, unable to watch. But Carter did not collapse. He screamed in pain, but he stayed on his feet. With his remaining arm, he lifted his rifle and fired again. His voice, hoarse but strong, shouted across the battlefield, "We don't stop. Not ever!" His squad roared back with him, voices filled with fury and determination. That cry carried beyond the arena. It filled the grand hall, echoing in the ears of every alien ambassador. The words were simple, but they carried the truth of humanity. The battle raged on. Wounded soldiers kept fighting. Those who fell rose again. Their bodies scarred, their blood spilled, but their spirits only grew stronger. Finally, with one last coordinated strike, the squad brought down the warbeast. Explosives tore into its armored hide, and the creature collapsed with a thunderous roar. The ground shook, the fires dimmed, and silence followed. The horn sounded. The trial was over. The humans stood together, scarred, burned, bleeding, but alive. They had passed. In the hall, the alien representatives sat in silence. None laughed. None mocked. They stared at the humans as if seeing them for the first time. The insectoid general, who had been the loudest critic, finally bowed his head. His voice, once filled with scorn, was now quiet with respect. "Perhaps we judged them wrong. They are fragile, yes, but only in appearance." The crystalline ambassador added softly, "Fragile things shatter. But these creatures, they bend, they break, and then they return. Again and again. Perhaps they are the most dangerous of all." The serpent delegate hissed quietly. "They endure where others fall. They rise where others stay down. That is their true weapon." Commander Ruiz stepped forward, her uniform torn, her face smeared with ash. She looked up at the council. "Now you understand. We may not have claws or shells, but we have something greater. We survive, we rise. We return no matter how many times we are struck down." Her words hung in the air. At that moment, humanity was no longer laughed at. They were respected and feared, because the truth was clear: humans fall. Humans bleed. Humans suffer, but humans always rise again.